Three Skunks Near Lost Lagoon by Howard W. Robertson. The alienation of urban congestion, the din, the ragged agitation, the glop, are forgotten almost completely at sight of the trio of young skunks on their merry way back to nearby Lost Lagoon. The frolicsome threesome sauntering westward down the wide sidewalk in front of the Rosellan Suites on Barclay Street, just a couple blocks away from the wilds of Stanley Park, out on the exemplary west end of downtown Vancouver. Exciting us so that we park the car quickly in our assigned spot behind the Rosellan and rush back out front to see whether or not we can still do a little skunk watching. Which we can, and eagerly follow the black and white striped youngsters at a cautiously respectful distance into the vastness of the park. The 1,000-acre expanse of forest and meadows right beside the high-rise studded, densely urban west side of downtown. The wild parcel that Lord Stanley dedicated in 1886, quote, to the use and enjoyment of people of all colors, creeds, and customs for all time, end quote. To which we might add today the words, quote, to the glory of all 5 kingdoms of cellular life, the 4-billion-year young bacteria who are the ancestors of all life on Earth and who maintain the biosphere as this habitable surface, the protoctists who were formed by symbiotic bacterial mergers around 1.7 billion years ago, and who evolved a billion years later into us animals who moved from sea onto dry land, into the matter recycling fungi 100 million years after that, and finally into the food-producing photosynthetic plants who have accompanied us here on Earth ever since, end quote. Including here in this lush park into which these 3 skunks now lead us foreigners, who lose sight of them almost immediately, but continue on anyway to Lost Lagoon, where we stop and rest on a rustic bench, beholding the atavistic sheen of the whole, the red-eared sliders on the log in the lagoon whose shells are as perfectly improbable a refutation of universal entropy as Gaia's oxygenated air, or that big star factory in Orion's belt. The cattails and bulrushes at the far marshy corner over by the stormwater treatment wetland, where the runoff from the causeway is filtered through a complex network of plant and soil material. More generally, the hemlocks and red cedars, the bracket fungus and angel's wing mushrooms, the pileated woodpeckers and the double-crested cormorants, the swamp lanterns and salmonberries, the licorice fern on the big-leaf maple trunks, the ginkgos and gunneras, the beaked moss and liverworts, the beard lichens and red-belted conchs, the rough-skinned newts and the boreal toads, and the 50 to 70 million-year-old sandstone and mudstone with 32 million-year-old basalt intrusions on which the park and the whole downtown sit, and which the gathering and hunting Squamish trod from the 6th to the 19th centuries Anno Domini. All of which suggests to the biophilic imagination Vernadsky's notion that life is a dissipative structure materialized by the stellar energies transforming themselves into a living biospheric unity, and recalls Virchow's dictum that omnis cellula a cellula, that all the cells in every GAIAN creature since the hellish Hadean eon ended 4 billion years ago, have derived ultimately from a first autopoietic prokaryotic bacterium, whose non-nucleated DNA was like aperiodic clay crystals, and so would justify our calling him the cellular atom from the Hebrew Adamah, meaning clay soil. Whereupon Hope offers up the provocative remark, it all seems alive. A sentiment that always leads me back to the fundamental confusion I feel about what life is and correlatively death. What we mean when we say the biosphere is a single living organism, though we know that even the simplest single-celled creatures can smell whether something is alive and whether it constitutes prey, paramour, or predator. For it baffles me how we can believe that humans are integrated colonies of amoeboid beings programmed genetically to age and to die, no matter how safe the circumstances, that these raucous red-winged blackbirds singing concaree in those oniric willows and bamboo over there are mortal, that the first complex animals of the Cambrian explosion over 500 million years ago, the 2-foot-long Anomalocaris with claw-like feeding appendages, the Upabinia with its 5 eyes and steam shovel snout, the Hallucigenia with bilaterally symmetrical spines and many tubular legs, the Picaia worm with soft spinal cord from whom all of us chordates descend, and all of the other fossilized organisms in the Burgess Shale from eastern British Columbia are long since extinct and gone forever, that all of these rapid and furious lives in the sun must or did vanish into death. When we also are so sure that physis proceeds, as Aristotle noticed, from minerals to mortals without an exact line of demarcation, that the constant autopoiesis of our planet is the aggregate emergent property of all these gas-trading, gene-exchanging, growing and evolving organisms on it, that all our fauna, flora, and microbiota form a single-souled, gas-entrenched, ocean-connected, planetary system named Gaia. That Lovelock considers this the largest organic being in the solar system, whose extremely unlikely and perdurable atmospheric composition, temperature stability, and oceanic desalinization could only be the result of this entire nested fractal network of interdependent beings, taken as a single living entity with mind and purpose, that this environment becomes a metazoic oikos, like a shell or nest, an involved constructed part of a living biosphere, that all of life on Earth is the expression of the life of the cosmos, defying thermodynamic entropy over billions of years. For almost everything we see in the heavens is ignored by the notion of a gas in homogeneous equilibrium, that the spirit who expresses itself through renewing these galaxies does so through us also from beyond this realm of life and death. The restless perplexity of all of which propels me up with hope and over to the totem poles near Hallelujah Point, where we are cheered by all the brightly colored carvings of bear, eagle, thunderbird, whale, wolf, seal, cannibal bird, mountain goat, and zonaqua, crouching on Raven's Head, the wild woman of the woods atop the ingenious corvid, from that myth-informed space-time where animals could transform into humans, and vice versa, which is just another way of saying all animals, including humans, were recognized to be close kindred, we offspring of two-parent sex, producing blastula embryos that still grow into gastrolas, each with mouth, stomach, and anus. We playful, precise, and witty animalia with our various marvelous inventions for cooling and warming, for moving and holding firm, stalking and evading, wooing and deceiving. We highly responsive agents of Gaia's planetary proprioception. We collective intensifiers of this noosphere, since all life has mind. We agile creatures with nerve cells and synapses whose oxygen-energized metabolism recapitulates 4 billion years of biogeny, and whose genetic spirals can be traced back to the methane makers and sulfur lovers that first populated the planet. Or just we two, gendered perambulators, Hope and I, who look out over not the time traveler's quiet riot of glistening color during the Archean eon, the bright red, green, purple, and orange of those primordial photosynthesizing bacteria that colonized the new volcanic terrain, the congealed lava flows, the hardened pumice, the sparkling black sand, but rather out from Vancouver's first green space, across this billion-blooded inlet to the towering former Nunataks, accepting the natural history of the whole world and celebrating this city where civilization reconnects with a profound sense of symbiotic participation in a cosmos far stranger than we are capable of supposing, and yet, at the same time, one pervaded by intelligence, beauty, and the versatile makings of divine meaning.